everyone. Welcome back, and thanks for showing up. And thanks for showing up, Darren.
Hello, hello, hello.
How you doing tonight, my man?
I just found out that the Lego Movie was actually released in 2014. So that's
we
great.
we
That's
missed it by
awesome.
1 year. Well, 1 year.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation about everything is awesome, and it got stuck in people's head. And in the movie, it's supposed to be a bad thing.
But we're going to talk about all the awesome films that have been released in the roughly past decade.
Yeah, tonight's topic is just what Darren said, from 2015 to 2025. We want to do an episode talking about some modern movies, you know what I mean? Not just be two old farts stuck in the past.
Yep.
There are good movies out there, right? I mean, they still do make them.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. You just have to go on the hunt, and weirdly, a lot of them, as I look at my list, funny enough, a lot of these are not like big movies, or they didn't do great at the box office. It's sort of funny how that works.
Yeah, well, it's hit or miss sometimes, especially with the weirdness we had from like 2020 to 2023-ish, right? That was a little bit odd.
COVID
So,
really threw a big old monkey wrench into everything. So, but we won't be discussing that too much, I don't think. Hey, if it comes up, it comes
nah.
up. But tonight we really just want to talk about movies we have really enjoyed and loved. Again, we set a little rule. It couldn't be older than 2015. So, Darren, but I believe you have something you want to talk about.
Yeah, so you have recommended that in our previous conversation, we were talking about time travel and time after time. That is I've got to watch it now, and I gotta say that I feel like there are a lot of elements that maybe even Back to the Future stole from it. Not to say the least about the lead damsel in the film,
Maybe a
but
nod, right?
it's a pretty heavy when you consider some of the elements. It's there. Definitely different, but
No Jack the Ripper.
no Jack the Ripper. But it was weird because of the tonality, the style, the caricatures. Definitely a movie of the '70s, it feels like the very end of that
It
line
is.
of filmmaking. A
It
lot of
is.
long shots. So
Yeah. I miss that kind of filmmaking. It's funny, I promise everybody this is not going to be a show about time travel movies.
it's a later episode.
It just so happens that it's come up a lot. But yeah, time after time, look, I'd have to think about it really deep, but offhandedly I'll say it is my favorite time travel movie. The score by Miklos Rozsa is amazing. Nicholas Meyer or Meyer, I've been corrected both ways, so I don't know anymore. Fantastic writer, fantastic director. But how cool is it to see Malcolm McDowell as a good guy?
For once, it's bizarre because he's like almost trying to be in disguise as being a good guy, right? With his mustache and his glasses, like he's like a cartoon character of himself, but he's so young. It's nice seeing it that way. I feel like he could have been a more fun good guy in some ways because he was so endearing. You felt empathy for him, even though he was naive the whole
Well,
the whole movie.
that's the
Yeah,
plot. Yeah, that's.
yeah.
I'll tell you what though. I think you got to give props to David Warner as Jack the Ripper. He portrays Jack in a way I've never seen before. You almost feel some sympathy for this guy. You can see that he's actually in pain, and I thought that was an interesting choice. I don't know if you picked this up. Did you feel like Jack never really wanted to kill Malcolm McDowell's character just because he was his friend? Like, if you'll notice, he never does any action that appears like he's going to try to kill Malcolm.
I think that he has yeah, he's a friend. He has respect. I think that was the interesting thing about Jack the Ripper. He was more focused. He did he
On the
ever? I
women.
don't think he ever. The women. It was more about a respect thing. He never would kill someone. It seemed like that he could hold with respect unless it was
Necessary.
necessary.
Yeah, like a
And
trapped animal almost.
yeah, I feel like he only killed the one person to
Don't
make a
spoil.
point.
Don't spoil.
Well,
Yeah.
the reality of it is that he is very much a symptom of a bigger problem. He's not pure, not good, but definitely someone who brings attention to issues and things and takes advantage of those in which are in need of help, even though he's not curable. And I think that he believes the people that he is killing aren't curable either. So I think that's part of it, and it's meant to help
It's
them
like a
feel
punishing. I got like he
satisfied.
thinks he's punishing them. And then there is an offhand comment David makes about his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get the impression he's killing his mom over and over again. There's a hint. There's little hints.
So the obvious things that are funny to me, the beginning, there's a time machine. I don't know, there's a spoiler, and it's cold or hot when it travels through time. And it's used a rag to open the door. Back to the Future. Mary Steam version with her interactions with HG is also hilarious because it's very similar to Back to the Future Part 3 in a lot of ways. I think there's some interesting elements they definitely stole from that.
Well, look, it's a charming little film. I think it still holds up. As you pointed out, it does have a 70s feel slightly to it, especially the clothes Jack is wearing in the modern day, those bell bottoms. But I think that it still holds up. It still has that near timeless quality about it. It's got a vibe to it that doesn't feel like many other movies, and I just love it. Maybe I just bias. I got blinders. I love that film, so highly recommend time after time.
Agreed. If for nothing else, it's very educational in the history of filmmaking. It's very important to watch, I think, especially if you like sci-fi and time travel.
Agreed.
You should watch it.
All right, so tonight's topic, modern movies that we love. We don't want to be... There's a lot of negative Nellies out there. You know, you got the rage tubers on YouTube who... They hate everything. And look, I won't lie, I won't deceive... I'm not a big fan of a majority of what's released today. I'm not going to present myself as something I'm not. But I still look for movies I love as opposed to raging about the movies I hate. And they're out there. So I'm going to give you... by the way, I'm not going to do a pick that we recommend because he just did time after time. And I know it was from last time, but we'll make that the one film. But we're going to be recommending movies tonight that I think you should see, period. I think all of these are movies we'd recommend. That's safe to say, isn't it?
I think so. Maybe we'll even hit on some that are obvious watches, just to complement people's opinion.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can't say everything is like I've got The Fall Guy on my list. I'll just say that up front. Like, I think many people have kind of caught up with that one at this point, but
I hope so.
As an example, yeah, exactly. That was a fun one. But what would be your first pick?
I think that for me, only because of the rewardingness, I have to give it to, this is going to be cliche, Avengers Endgame, frankly, because
I didn't expect that.
It was a culmination of such a long investment that I think it still is probably one of the most important films, maybe in Infinity War, but in general, that resolution to that whole saga that was like forever was pretty meaningful, I would argue, and I won't forget seeing those films in theaters and etc. And then there'll be like that moment in time. I think that's pretty impactful.
It was a first. I mean, like, there's been lots of series that went on for a long time. Godzilla, James Bond, things of that nature. Star Trek, which we brought up.
Yeah.
But we've never seen anything that had a continual run where they were putting out the product fairly reasonably quick. That was part of one overall storyline and then had a definitive ending. I mean, yes, I know they went into another phase after, but I'm saying that story arc was over in Endgame. And so I can't think of another film series that's ever done that.
No.
Not that many movies.
Maybe never again. I mean, they're still doing stuff today, but I think in the scale and scope, that was pretty rewarding to those that had followed the whole storyline. So, yeah.
I agree with that. That's the best way to put it. It was rewarding for those who followed it. So I'm not as big a fan of the movie. You know that. We talked about it a long time ago. But at the same time, I still have to give it props, and I have to recognize it was a cultural phenomenon. Myself, a friend Jeff, and Ken saw it in a big movie theater. We had to wait in a huge line to go see it, and people were cheering at all the moments you already know what they are. You know what I mean? Captain America getting Thor's hammer. Like, every moment you'd guess got a cheer. And it was kind of cool to be there for it because I didn't get to see a lot of these films in the theater. I saw a few, maybe about 20-25% of them. But that one was really cool to see in the theater. It was an experience.
We should break from topic briefly because you said something really fun there. So your favorite moment in theater as far as cheering and audience response goes, do you have a definitive moment for that?
Do
Like
I
of all time?
personally?
Yeah, all time.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
that's way too hard for me right off the cuff. I'll say this: I saw the movie Frequency in the theater, and that's a movie with Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel, and it is the most positive reaction to a movie I've ever seen in my life. It,
Oh
it
wow.
made
Okay.
it more fun. The ending. I don't want to give it away, but it's technically a time travel movie. How does this keep happening? Technically, there is no time travel, but he talks over time. But there's a moment at the end where the audience stood up and cheered, and when the credits rolled, everyone stood up and clapped. I gotta be honest with you, I have not seen that in many movies. In fact, the only film I can remember where an audience stood up and clapped was when I saw obviously a re-release of The Great Escape. That's
Oh,
the only,
that's fair.
yeah, that's the only time I remember. Now I could be wrong. I mean, as far as there could have been another, and I'm forgetting.
That is a highlight.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good question. How
Yeah.
about you? Besides Endgame, how do you have one? I mean, unless it is.
Oh,
Endgame.
for cheering? No. Well, it's more Marvel, ironically, but the best ever was X2, where Wolverine finally kills someone
Oh, where he goes berserker.
and just stabs the guy in the chest through the refrigerator with
Yes.
Iceman in the room. I was at a midnight showing for that at an AMC, sold out, big giant theater, with like 400 people. The cheers and screaming was ear piercing for that moment.
Same in my
Um,
theater. Same in my.
Yeah, that was probably the best. The best moment. Outside of that, I've been to some pretty fun screenings with Fast and Furious movies where people are cheering and screaming at the screen, but that's an eclectic
That's a
group.
different
You're gonna-
experience.
Yeah,
That's
it's a different experience. Yeah, so
In the theater we saw Fast and the Furious, you could hear tires squealing in the parking lot as you watched the
God.
movie. So, Endgame is your pick. So, for me, I'm gonna. You
Yeah.
know what? I'll actually choose a different one. Let's go the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm
okay.
gonna pick a movie. It is from 2021, I believe. It's called Pig with Nicolas Cage. This is one of those movies that I think when people saw the trailer, they thought two things. One, they had no idea what to make of the trailer. And two, they were going, oh, this is going to be crazy Nicolas Cage again. And let me just say that both those feelings are basically wrong if you felt that way, because if you see this movie, it is one of the most endearing, heartfelt films I have seen in a long time. This film really touches your heart. The film is ultimately, not giving anything away by saying this, but it's a deep film, but it is about basically surviving grief and dealing with grief. That's what the theme of the movie is. And it all starts with a man's favorite pig being kidnapped. And it takes him on a journey back to a city he hasn't been to in years, in Portland. And he goes on a journey with this young man. I really can't tell you too much because honestly, one, I don't want to give anything away. And
Well, I haven't watched it. I gotta
well, I'm
watch
talking
it.
to the
so-
audience here. I'm talking.
I know. Well, I'm just saying. On top of that, I've got to see this.
This
You're
you've got
selling
to
us.
see.
Yeah.
This movie surprised me, and what I love the most is it's not crazy Nick Cage. This is actor Nick Cage, and it was so wonderful to see him just performing and showing how talented he is as an actor. And he shows you why he really is a big star and why that never went away. It is a journey, it is a quest, and I found the ending personally very satisfying. I've heard a few people said they were a little confused because it doesn't give you every single answer. You know what I mean? It doesn't but it wraps up, I think, every question that is asked that was important.
So you think it's more in line with his performances like you got from like his old school, like Leaving Las Vegas, like where he was really absolutely maximum effort, Nick Cage, no holding back.
Well, it's weird to say. Yes, it is. He does it in a subtle way in this film. He's not like blowing out the screen, man. He even in a scene where he has to fight, and again, I don't want to give anything away. He pulls back more than you'd expect, and that's what makes it important. His actions are all calculated, and they're for a reason.
There you go.
So that's all I have to say on that one. How about for you? What's your next pick?
So I'm gonna think more in timeline thoughts. I think a movie that really showed up to me. I love Twilight Zone. Let me be clear on that. for those who don't know. I do feel like a movie that was in the earlier days of our window of time, Ex Machina, was one of the ones that I thought were really, really cerebral and deep. Isaac had his chance. That was like the beginning of his career. Things like that. I feel like that movie is the highlight. You know the Ex Machina that I'm talking about?
Ex Machina? Yeah, I know that.
Ex Machina, you're saying it the correct way. I say it the wrong way.
It's an old term they used in video games a lot. It means God in the machine.
I think that movie did a lot with almost nothing and a lot of neat visual effects, especially for the time, even they were kind of trivial prospectively. I think it did a good job toying with who was right, who was wrong, what's the actual outcome. It was independent. It was small. There's no budget really for this big, flashy science fiction in quotes movie. I think it was a lot of fun to watch. I've never watched it again, but I've watched it once, and I remember it very well. And I think that it's just a bizarre play on emotions. I kind of miss those kinds of films where they're about a story and a strand, and it's complicated. You're never going to really watch the movie again, but it's still it stays with you as this was part of people dealt with this, they thought about this, they were wrong, they were right, this person was good, that person was bad, this, that, whatever was going on. It was very confusing, and there was a lot of bizarre behavior, and I thought it was interesting from a character study. I had fun with it. I think that's one of the earlier films in our history that would stand out to me. Other films near it, I'm not a big fan of. For example, like Mad Max Fury Road, I'm not a big fan of that. So, but this I enjoyed quite a bit. I think that would be the other film in that era that would stand out, even though I saw that one in theaters. I did not see X in theaters, but it's just a better movie. I had more fun with it.
With Ex Machina. You had more fun with
Ex
that
Machina.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not deviating. I'll just make a quick notation that happened to me with a movie when I enjoyed The Matrix. It was a theater going movie. It was a fun experience. But there was another movie called The 13th Floor, and it has very similar themes. It's lower budget than that one, and I just preferred The 13th Floor of The Matrix, and they came out the same year, so I get it. I'm with you. There are some movies they affect you in a different way. They move you in a way that maybe the bigger movies don't sometimes. So I get that.
To be fair, I can compliment that. I do think that that those two movies are quintessential. You should watch both of them, right? But they are very different movies.
You mean
and they
Fury
are
Road
similar.
and Ex Machina?
Well, no, I'm talking. The Matrix and 13th Floor. Yeah, but to be fair, that movie was very good. It was a crime noir,
yes,
but with a sci-fi twist to it, and it's also very, I would argue, very Twilight Zone-y. Speaking of liking Twilight Zone, it's way more heavy-handed in that regard.
I
It's a great film.
I'd say not to be argumentative, maybe like Outer Limits, because it dealt more with
even better.
The humanity and that question. It was very Philip K. Dick. If you've ever read his stuff, what defines a human being, what makes them a human being. And again, I can't give anything away, but I'll say, even though it's a cheat, if you've never seen The 13th Floor, you really should. But when you said that about Ex Machina, I could hear the voices in my head go, better than Fury Road? And it's like, I love Fury Road, but I understand what you're saying. There's been those movies where somebody else is talking the event film, and I'm going, yeah, but this little ride over here, I enjoyed more. So I get it. So if I'm going to be on a show and I'm going to recommend movies, at some point, thrillers are coming into the mix.
Yes.
I love thrillers. They are one of my favorite genres. I grew up watching them. And there's a movie that came out, and this was not a little movie. In fact, I am shocked this film did not do well. We're getting a little closer to the 215 limit, though, with this one from 2018 called Bad Times at the El Royale. The story? The time is 1969. 4 strangers check in at the El Royale Hotel. The hotel is deserted, staffed by a single desk clerk. Some of the new guests' reasons for being there are less than innocent, and some are not who they appear to be. You have names in it like Jeff Bridges, Dakota Johnson, who at this time was on a rise. She wasn't quite she's bigger now, but she was on a rise at this point. You had Chris Hemsworth, who was at this point still beloved as Thor. John Hamm, Kaylee Spaney, who was also a young actor on the rise. Nick Offerman. Like, seriously, this movie has a cast. But more so than that, it's got a great story, really interesting characters, and twists that just catch you off guard. This was my kind of movie. It was quirky. It took you on a journey. It made you feel something because you had characters that had some heart. Because, you know, technically none of them are good guys, technically speaking. There's one person there that's not a criminal or otherwise, but, you know, still has some questionable things. So it takes you on a journey and it delivers the goods. And I also found that the ending stuck the landing. And doggone it, if you haven't seen it and you like thrillers, you gotta go check this one out. It's about a group of people who end up at the El Royale Hotel, which is on the dividing line of, I can't remember, California and New Mexico, is it? Forgive me, it's been a little while, I don't remember. But it was genuinely kind of weird, the idea that, like, it's almost like the motel itself is in two different eras, because the past plays a very important role in this film. It's set in 1969, and that's also very important and significant. So the film itself is about the change in the culture that was happening in the world at that time. So we went from this brighter, less cynical period into a much darker, cynical period in human history. And the film represents that too. So there's a lot going on in this film.
I've never seen that film, but it's on my list now. There we go. That is fantastic. I think so. To follow on to that, I don't know that I can completely compete with that, but I want to go to something that was also pretty impactful for the time. I do think that we got, and I'm mentally going in kind of a order of timeline here. There was a movie in 2016 that everyone was talking about. I don't think it was that great. Actually, that's one of the movies that I actually want to be negative on. Opposite of our conversation, kind of. But everyone was like, this is the best thing ever.
Talk about what you want to talk about, man.
And I think that Arrival was a massive, horrible disappointment. It came out like just complete garbage. Amazing visuals for the trailer. I hated the movie. So I
liked it. I hate to. I don't want to become your enemy, but I like Arrival. I like old school science fiction though, so that should be noted. I used to read a lot of science fiction when I was a kid, so.
I feel like we're deceived the whole time. You know, I have a big issue with films where they feel like you're going to get one thing, you're getting a different thing.
That's
I feel
fair.
like it was that kind of movie.
That's fair.
The only movie I give an exception to that's like that, in the same kind of vein, because I just have like, oh, you're okay, is Contact. But Arrival,
I love Contact.
I love Contact too, but that's like, I feel like you're ripping off Contact, and you're not as good as Contact. Don't do that. Like, you're playing games, you know. I don't know, maybe I'm cynical in that regards, but that's my take.
Not every movie. Not every movie's gonna it's gonna affect people the same way, and it is like, for instance, here's what's interesting. I don't want to see Arrival again. Like, I've never had the desire to go watch the movie again. So I feel like one Passover was enough for me, but I did enjoy the ride. I won't lie, I really did enjoy the ride.
We could spin into a different film that was so good till it wasn't, but it's also in our era. I think Annihilation. Did you see Annihilation?
No, that's the Natalie Portman run, correct?
Natalie Portman one.
See, that's a Netflix, and I avoid them like the plague.
Oh my god, so good till it wasn't. By the other film, it's like, this was actually going to be great. So weird, so good, so bizarre. It made sense, and it's just like, the ending is just like, we don't know. It almost became that kind of like, when you watch, for the newer age people out there, like the back rooms, it went there at the end of the film. It's like, kind of thing. It's like, what? Like, what are we? Why? The rest of it made sense. I understood what was going on. It just went like full tilt crazy at the end. But to give compliment where compliment's due, visually it's beautiful. The acting is pretty much on par, stellar. Definitely feels independently made, which I appreciate. And generally pretty good, but it's been that past like window of time, of films that maybe people haven't seen, but I think they should watch. But it's It's not great, but you'll appreciate you'll feel better having watched it than not. I think that's a
Okay.
big part of a lot of films in the past 10 years. Like, if you haven't seen it, you should. It's not the ending's not great, but the most of it you're gonna love the experience, the ride.
That's good. The journey is good. The arrival is not. Literally in this case.
Yeah, literally in that case, yeah. I mean, it'll make you. I guess another thing about films, right? We do like when they make conversation. That movie will make you talk to people and discuss the ending. I like that about movies. What do you think about that kind of style of how films end, where they make you want to have a conversation?
I'm really not a fan of Netflix movies, but oh no, it was a Coen brother film, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. It was a Joel and Ethan Coen movie. Tim Blake Nelson, Liam Neeson. Oh, let's just leave it at that. A big cast: James Franco, Tom Waits, lots of people. And I remember watching the film and I hated it. But all night I was thinking about the themes of the film. And it was basically how every character dealt with death and how they approached it and their feelings on it. And it was like, oh, okay, I get it. And so it got me thinking about it and it got me thinking about each character, but I never want to revisit it. So I get what you mean.
It's just one of those films you have something. It's like it just is what it is. It's fine. It's good, and we're gonna move on. So, Office Party is a 2016
Oh, okay.
comedy film when T.J. Miller wasn't psychotic completely. It takes place in Chicago, and it's a stupidly fun evening, just a blast. If you want a quintessential fun, dark, but not that dark comedy that is over the top and ridiculous for Christmas to watch that you haven't seen before, that involves a lot of drinking, a lot of shenanigans, I highly recommend Office Party with T.J. Miller. He is at his best in that. And you've got Jennifer Aniston's in it, a couple other famous people, a Bulls player who doesn't play for the Bulls anymore is in it. It's a fun movie. I'm just throwing that out there.
I think
Comedies
this is
are
an
great.
R-rated comedy.
Very R-rated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, by any chance, you said Office Party. Is it called Office Christmas Party?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Office-
found it. So I take it this is going to be a classic. You build up to an office party that's going to happen on Christmas, and all heck breaks loose. Shenanigans ensue.
Absolutely. You have drugs, you have prostitution, you've got all types of crazy things going on in this film. It's really ridiculous. And a lot of great character actors doing their best work, I think. Some of their best. It sounds weird to say that, but they're having a lot of fun making the film. You can tell that by watching it. They're not having a bad time. So,
All right, Office Christmas Party, everyone. Well,
So-
then I'm going to, because I think we can start wrapping up here. We can start looking for the finish line.
we're going to have a part 2 then, it sounds like.
No, I'm not wrapping it up the second. I'm saying I'm going to give 2 titles.
Okay.
Because they happen to be directed by the same guy, and they came out not too far apart. And that is the one I already mentioned, The Fall Guy, and the other film is Bullet Train with Brad Pitt. I got to tell you, this time I'm going super light and fun. I mean, now both films are. I mean, you should watch the unedited Fall Guy. So let's just call it R-rated. But it's like a hard PG-13, really. And Bullet Train is an R-rated film because of swearing and violence. But these are both fun, go for the ride movies. You'll just have a good time. Now, The Fall Guy is allegedly based on the Fall Guy TV show. I gotta be honest with you, not really. If you're looking for that TV show, you're not gonna find it in this movie. It's more like there's nods. The character's called Colt Seavers. He drives the same color truck. The rest of it is just about a stuntman who ends up well, I want to say solving a crime, but there's more to it than that. He's actually looking for a missing person that turns into a crime he's trying to solve to trying to clear his own name. That's all in the trailer, so I'm not giving it away.
There is so much more to that movie. The movie's so complicated.
But it is so much fun. The scene where he gets drugged, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, might be one of the funniest things I've seen in movies in a long time. All I have to say for you to understand what I'm talking about is unicorn, and I'm sure you'll get it. Make sure you see the uncut version. Now, a few people have said the theatrical cut's fine, and they're not wrong, but the problem is they cut some scenes out of where he's been drugged. And honestly, I think those are great scenes, and they shouldn't have cut them. That's my opinion. But whatever version you watch, you're going to have a good time. It's funny. It's a romantic comedy, which honestly, I can't tell you the last time I saw an action romantic comedy in the theaters. I highly recommend The Fall Guy. And then I'm going to switch on over to Bullet Train really quick. And this is a film I think really went under a lot of people's radar. It was before The Fall Guy in 2022. It is about a man who works for a shady company, and all he has to do is get a pickup. He's just got to pick something up. Simple job. Of course, nothing is simple, and he ends up on a train filled with assassins. I think you can kind of figure it out from there. It is him trying to survive and figure out just what the heck is going on. This film is wall-to-wall, quirky characters, set pieces, funny scenarios. It's got a very dark sense of humor, but it is not the kind of movie that'll make you feel ugly by the time you're done watching it. I love Bullet Train, and it's just funny that both these films are directed by the same guy, and neither one of them did well at the box office. They just didn't. I think COVID is primarily the culprit of that. But my opinion, I love them both. They're good times. I'd say for both of them, leave the kids, get a babysitter. They're not really for kids, but you'll have a good time watching these films.
They're great recommendations. I can't disagree with that. I think that, as far as the last, if I were to jump to two different movies in that regards, I really, really, really feel like, concerning there was a huge era of John Wick during this time. I'm not going to talk about John Wick, but one movie that ironically popped back up into my vision recently, because there's going to be a sequel, Nobody.
Yes. Nobody
is the every person's John Wick. It's absolutely a blast, and I remember having so much fun watching it. It is, in a lot of ways, better than John Wick. It's way less dark, but it's way more fun, and you feel for the guy the whole time. Bob Odenkirk nailed it with the whole balancing act. It just, you believe it, because in this situation, I know that John Wick got hurt, but Bob Odenkirk,
he's a cartoon. He's
hurt. Yeah.
Odenkirk looks like a man. I mean, look, it's still exaggerated, but he looks like Bruce Willis at the end of Die Hard. Like, he is beat to hell.
Yes. He is literally torn up. You believe it. You're not being tricked into being sold by an idea that, hey, he can do this, he's special, or he's getting some sort of plot armor thing going on. None of that stuff's happening to him. So I would strongly recommend that. That being said, on the other end of the spectrum, because I'm going to complement that with a similar film that's kind of a black comedy, is Upgrade. And I think Upgrade...
I've seen Upgrade. Okay.
Yeah, it takes place earlier. Well, it came out sooner. A lot of people compared Upgrade to Venom, ironically, which is weird, but they thought that Upgrade was a ripoff of Venom. It's whatever. It's fine. It's not at all.
No.
But playing into that whole storyline, telling and weirdness and cool things happening and making sense, very action-packed, but it's funnier. They're both funny movies. I would say Upgrade's far darker towards the end, whereas Nobody becomes very rewarding towards the end, where Upgrade does not do that. So be prepared for that scenario. But I wanted to mention those two at the end because I feel like they're kind of a yin and yang in that era of filmmaking where people were trying to figure out how we make a fun action hero that people can relate to, yet not feel like they're invulnerable and don't get hurt. There's a lot of that. So
I gotta say right up front that Nobody is the same writer as John Wick. So he wrote both. So when people say they're so similar, well, they're the same writer.
Yeah.
So he wasn't ripping anybody off, he's ripping himself off. And between the two films, and here comes me with cinematic blasphemy, yet again, I prefer Nobody. Liked it more. Like, John Wick was a fun movie for what it was, but it was empty calories.
Yeah.
I watched it and was like, oh, okay. Nobody actually stuck with me. And again, it's one of those films that it's in the nuances. You think you know where it's going, and then it zigs a little, it zags a little. I'll have to say this. I don't think this is personally a spoiler, but I'm going to bring it up. One of the things I liked was that even though his wife doesn't know everything, she knows about him to some degree. So I'm thankful we didn't have that scene. the True Lies moment. Oh, you're a spy. Oh, you're an assassin. Oh, you know what I mean? They skip that. You don't have to have that. It's just about how much he loves his family and why he changed. And that's what's great about Nobody. John Wick kind of just, I didn't want to be a killer anymore. And that's it. Because he loved this girl. That's it. That's all you get.
He lost his motivation very quickly. Yeah.
And then in this one, it's like his family is his motivation. And you can see there's a genuine character who doesn't want to be this person anymore. He doesn't want to be what he was. He genuinely wants to be a good man, a good father, a good husband. And that's why I loved it. It's a film I will revisit again and again. Upgrade is a darker film, and honestly, I'm not going to give anything away. How you look at the ending, it may not be totally unhappy.
Depends,
dark.
yeah.
It depends on how you look at it, and that's what I liked about it. It's got those classic science fiction motifs, and it was a great journey. It was just wonderful, and it's not a film you can really say too much about other than a man has an AI planted within him. And as the film progresses, he uses the AI to get out of situations. And it's a lot of fun to watch what those set pieces are. There's creative camera work, and there's some trippy visuals and stunts here and there just to keep you entertained. But there's always a beating heart to the story. I love that. I'm a big fan. So I also give a recommend for Upgrade and Nobody.
And that kind of brings you to the conversation about the past 10 years. And I think one film may be the hallmark of technology and advancements and heartfelt goodbyes that started this whole thing in the past 10 years. I think that's a critical part. And I think that is probably, and we should talk about this, it's going to be a good setup, it could be a good conversation later too, I think, is Fast and Furious, or Furious 7, which was the farewell to Paul Walker.
Yes.
A really weird scenario that began this decade of how do we finish a movie with someone who is effectively gone, and the technology advancements to make that possible, the blessings of siblings and family, and James Wan's hard work to make that happen, etc., and the whole team, and how do you deal with that. I think that might be a very important film in general, because the audiences that showed up for it were very, believe what you want about the whole story up to that point, right? 7 was still pretty in line with things, but the reality is what they did there to complete that film, I think, is like the beginning of the future of everything we're seeing today. I think it was a impactful film across the board to actually be able to be done, give a genuine send-off to an actor, and complete something to finish off their legacy in a way that's respectful, honest, and actually was very good. It was a impactful film. Granted, it was almost 10 years ago now that he came out. It's been now 11 since approximately he's passed away. I think it was 2014 or earlier than that, maybe 2013 even. But it's crazy to think how time has passed for all that, and how crazy that film is at this point in that regard. So
okay,
just wanted to bring that up as to mention, because I think it's forgotten often. So
all right, with that, I think we can close this out. I think we've done some pretty good recommends, and I'd like some feedback from all of you. Again, I tried not to give too much story. I really wanted to talk more about the ride, the feeling. I hope that was okay. If not, if you say, Fred, I really would have liked to know more about each of the stories, please let me know. And if you feel the same for Darren, let us both know.
We'll do a deep dive for you guys if you want to do a deep dive. If you want us to go into the details of the plots of a certain thing, or you want more details, we'll find the story strand, and we'll go through the details and spill all the beans. We're happy to do that.
Yeah,
so.
Well, to heck, we'll do episodes that spoils all these if you want. But I just thought it would be kind of fun to do, because Darren and I are still feeling this out. This podcast is an experiment, and we're trying to figure this out as we go as well. And I thought it'd be fun. Let's talk positively about some movies that have come out over the last 10 years that aren't attack, tear down. There's good acting. There's, good stories out there. They're good films, directors that know what they're doing. They know how to tell a story. And we did some comedies, we did some dramas, we did some thrillers. Honestly, I think we gave a pretty good batch of films there. We did a little of everything for you guys, and if you see these films, let us know what you thought. If you've already seen some of them, tell us what you thought about those too. Did you agree? Did you disagree? Let us know. We want to hear from you, because having that feedback lets us know what to do, and of course, more importantly, who to block on Twitter. Okay, all right. That's just being corny. But anyway, Darren, this was fun. Thanks, man, for coming.
Yeah, it's been a good time. Thank you all for hanging out and listening to us ramble on about stuff in the past 10 years, and there'll be more of it, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, come back to visit us next week to find out what we're going to talk about, because we have no idea either. So
Nope, no idea.
Have a good one, everyone. God bless.
Later.